You've paid more tax than anybody has ever paid in the history of the world, which is admirable, and you advocate higher taxes. And yet a kind of tax phobia seems to have gripped the world at the moment. How do you reverse that state of mind that says taxes are bad?
In general, a lot of taxes are too low in my view. For example, the estate tax, I'm a huge fan of that because it creates a certain dynamism where you don't just get an aristocratic type view. The person has died if they have a huge amount of money, which it's amazing that we allow people to have gigantic amounts of money. Then the state should take some of that, and
but it's very unpopular.
Yeah, no, that is of all my tax misunderstandings, the fact that people aren't for an estate tax is kind of mind-blowing to me. I mean, even in China, this is a communist country, they are hesitating to put in a vigorous estate tax. Weirdly, this is the one area where even though the U.S. estate tax is way too low, it's actually a higher estate tax than most other countries.
Your report this year on global goals and what progress we're making on poverty and disease, what strikes you most about this year's report?
Although the number of children being born has leveled off, the places where those children are being born is more and more in poor countries. It's more difficult to make sure that kids get the vaccines, they get the nutrition, the education, the things that will allow this younger generation to contribute and drive welfare and economic growth. And amazingly, almost all of those young children will be born in Africa.
What do we do to persuade the rich world to stay engaged? What works best? Is it hope or is it fear?
The best way of motivating people is if you can get them to go, meet the people, see the problems, then you're engaged at a human level. You can point out that the stability of Africa will make a huge difference for the entire world. The idea of could 0.7% of GDP be devoted to helping those extremely poor people, of which there are very large numbers, and very small amounts of money goes a long way. But even maintaining current levels, is often challenged. So
it's very much challenged in Britain, constantly under attack by our conservative press saying, why are we spending all this money abroad? And it is right at the bottom of people's priorities and quite hard for a government to hold on to. How do you persuade people that this is money well spent when they'd prefer to spend it at home?
If you're saving lives for very small amounts of money, and if you're really uplifting countries that over time will graduate from receiving aid, people should feel very good about that. The data about the impact is pretty amazing.
I mean, you're a very influential man. Do you have a chance to speak to President Trump and perhaps to persuade him that there is value in these things?
Now we need to work with Trump himself and the whole administration on what is your vision for Africa. And as a human being who cares about other human beings, as a country who doesn't want to have to go fight foreign wars or deal with pandemics that are out of control, isn't it possible that the U.S., which spends less than 1/3% on foreign aid.
Is President Trump persuadable?
Yes, I think actually he doesn't. One of the things that you could say is a plus or a minus is in very few areas does he have a fixed ideology. If there's something where he feels he can look smart, particularly if it's doing it in a different way than it was done before. And yes, I think he's open-minded. Improvement in the world is something people should be excited about. And the fact that when they read about Africa, it's always, sort of the latest problem there, which there are huge problems. Unless people get into the framework that Africa's improved immensely and that innovation all over the world can do a lot more, and that this generosity, there's no need to be cynical about it. It's great people doing their best. So I wish people could go and see more of the great work going on.